Coming up on Carolina News Now, 400 gallons of gas stolen from a North Carolina gas station. Police and the station owner still trying to figure out how the thieves were able to pull it off. Plus,
it's war, nobody knows what the end result is going to be, so that could change tomorrow.
How the conflict in Ukraine could affect the lifeguard stands in Myrtle Beach. And cases of COVID-19 still dropping in the Carolinas just in time for St. Patty's Day.
All year, we've been pretty much looking forward to this day.
The pandemic shut their doors, but this iconic Charlotte pub found the luck of the Irish. Hey there, I'm Maddie Gardner. Welcome to Carolina News Now. We are so happy to have you in with us. We are going over some of the best and top stories from both North and South Carolina this week. These might be the most interesting stories. They might be some of the most shocking video. Yeah, you saw that video earlier about gas stolen from a North Carolina gas station. Take a look at this surveillance video. Police are looking into just how thieves were able to bypass this station's paying system and steal $1,600 worth of gas. You can see in the surveillance video more than a dozen cars stealing gas at this station after it closed on Monday night. The owner says a car pulls up next to one of the pumps and then uses a device to hack their payment system. Unsure how they were able to do that, but he says they got almost 400 gallons of gas from just two pumps. Police are now investigating the incident, and the owner says they are using some extra security measures to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But goodness, we are paying more at the pump, and certainly people are trying to take advantage of this situation. And of course, we are seeing a little bit of relief now. According to AAA, those gas prices are starting to fall, but lawmakers across the country, they're talking about helping us out with a little bit more relief. A gas tax holiday, meaning you wouldn't have to pay gases on what you fuel up with when you go to the gas station. North Carolina lawmakers are now looking into it, especially if they're able to address some of the sticker shock that we're seeing at gas stations. Ellie Cosgrove reports on this story from Wilmington.
A lot of people are struggling with this gas and making life decisions at the pump, really.
Soaring gas prices are hurting everyone's wallet right now. But drivers are hopeful for some kind of relief.
We need the break right now. It's becoming a little warmer, springtime, people want to travel more.
That relief could come in the form of a gas tax holiday. Lawmakers across the country have discussed eliminating gas taxes at the federal and state level. Here in North Carolina, you pay a state tax of 36 cents a gallon and a federal tax of around 18 cents a gallon. Now, Governor Roy Cooper's office says he would, quote, carefully review the idea of suspending or reducing the state's gas tax, but it's the largest funding source for the State Department of Transportation.
That budget this year was $4.2 billion for revenue. And so the motor fuels tax represents about 50% of that.
Transportation officials say a gas tax holiday could disrupt some of the department's projects and maintenance work, similar to what we saw in 2020 when many people stayed home because of the pandemic.
We were deferring some of the maintenance operations that we were doing. Some projects got delayed. And so, a gas tax suspension or holiday could potentially do some of the same kind of things. We'd have to look at our budget across the board and see where we'd have to make cuts.
A tough trade-off, but one some in our growing community say would be worth it.
I think it would be more helpful right now, at least to have a brief holiday on gas tax and then get back to it later.
I know we're in dire need, but I think probably the gas tax suspension would be a better idea, at least on a temporary basis, and then we can do the infrastructure repairs at a later time.
A general feeling of what good are roads if you can't afford to drive on them. Governor Roy Cooper's office says that, like with any potential tax cut, leaders want to make sure that those savings are going to you as consumers and not to the bottom line of oil and gas companies. Reporting for Carolina News Now, Ellie Cosgrove, WECT News.
Yes, definitely wouldn't mind paying a little bit less for gas. I had to fill up just yesterday, and that sticker shock was still there. So we will keep you updated on that. Of course, the weekend is almost here. Maybe you have outdoor plans if you're not sitting inside watching basketball all weekend. Perhaps you're celebrating St. Patrick's Day this weekend. So we want to make sure you know what to expect when you head out. We have meteorologist Rachel Coulter in for us to give us an update on the regional weekend weather forecast.
I'm WBTV meteorologist Rachel Coulter. Wanted to give you an outlook on your forecast across the Carolinas as we head into the weekend. We're going to have a cold front that's going to allow for some of the shower thunderstorm activity you see on your screen here. It's going to be a little bit different though than what we had just a week ago. We were talking about another cold front that brought not only the showers and the storms, but also much colder and really windy conditions to the area. This weekend's fortunately looking different. So let's walk this through time for you. If you live out towards the Charlotte area, out towards the west, towards Greenville, Asheville, Boone, you'll have the best chance of rain Friday late afternoon and into the evening hours, with some of the shower thunderstorm activity making it to the east coastline by 10 o'clock on Friday. Temperatures will still be fairly comfortable with a few lingering showers possible around the area Saturday morning. And you can see as we work our way through time, there's going to be the potential for some showers and storms along the east coast, and those could be on the stronger side if they're able to develop. But of course, temperatures will be nice. We'll be drying out pretty quickly on the western side of North and South Carolina. Temperatures in the 70s, even close to 80 degrees out towards Columbia. Will be mostly dry from there heading into the second half of your weekend. Temperatures a little bit cooler on Sunday than what we'll see on Saturday, but overall a nice weekend ahead, especially in comparison to what we had around the area last weekend.
Wow. Rachel, thank you so much. Yes, it looks like it's going to be a much nicer weekend than we experienced last weekend in the Carolinas. Of course, we are continuing to monitor what is happening in Ukraine after Russia invaded them nearly 3 weeks ago now. We are staying on top of all that is happening, but also how it is affecting us here in the Carolinas. Myrtle Beach lifeguard stands might be harder to fill because of what is happening in Ukraine. A lot of their lifeguards actually come in for the summer from Eastern Europe. Ian Klein reports on this story from the Grand Strand.
It's that time of year again where local beach services are trying to staff up with as many lifeguards as they can. In recent years, a lot of them have come from overseas, but one local beach service says with the recent war between Russia and Ukraine, that could impact the numbers this summer.
As of right now, we still, quote unquote, in the clear as far as some of the Polish individuals that are cleared to come, that have gotten visas ready to go for the summer. Now, obviously, it really changes by the day.
Jones Beach Service General Manager Nick Jackson says the last 2 summers have been tough enough with travel bans preventing J1 workers from coming to the Grand Strand. Now, with tension between Russia and the Ukraine, they're trying their best to staff up for what's expected to be another busy summer.
Hire out of Poland, Czech Republic, that's where most of our lifeguards come from. Obviously, Poland is on the border of Ukraine.
This will be the first summer since 2020 with no travel ban in place due to the pandemic. Jackson says hiring has not been easy without their J1 lifeguards.
It was certainly a bit more difficult. We had to rely obviously a lot more on our domestic recruiting ability.
With the summer months still a few weeks away and the situation in Ukraine changing every day, Jackson is prepared to have a staff in place.
From what they all are telling me is that their intention is still to come, but I mean it's war. Nobody knows what the end result is going to be, so that could change tomorrow, and obviously that would be a totally understandable change of direction if any of them decided to stay in their home country.
Managers at John's Beach Service says it's become harder and harder each year to find qualified lifeguards, but are still hiring in time for the summer season. In Myrtle Beach, Ian Klein, WMBF News.
Ian Klein, thank you so much. Well, we are, of course, continuing to keep on top of what's happening as this war rages on in Ukraine. We are now getting a look of the front lines there. We spoke one-on-one with an American doctor who is working with Samaritans Purse at their mobile field hospital in Lviv, Ukraine. Dr. Chris Brandenburg, he currently works as an emergency room physician in Indiana, but for the last few days, he's been with the Samaritans Purse relief team in Ukraine, and he says they really are ready for anything there. They have a fully functioning emergency room. They have operating rooms. Of course, they have beds for people who need to be hospitalized. Now, he says they haven't seen a lot of trauma because they're in the western part of the country, but what they have been seeing and doing is taking care of refugees, people who are fleeing the eastern part of the country because of the war.
People are displaced from their doctors. We've seen several people that were supposed to have surgery, and because of the conflict, the surgery was canceled. So now they're here with that problem and need surgery, but may not. But again, they're far from home. I've seen patients that have cancer, and they were scheduled to have radiation treatment or chemotherapy. They're not getting those things, and so they've just gotten a lot sicker. Whatever their illness was, without proper treatment, they've gotten a lot sicker.
Dr. Brandenburg says he is scheduled to be in Lviv, Ukraine, a total of 25 days, so he still has about 3 weeks left in his stay. But when all of this started in Ukraine, the invasion of Russia, a South Carolina mother says she just had a feeling she needed to help her daughter who was living in Russia. Hours mattered the most, but this Charleston mom was able to figure out a way to get her daughter out of the country, and Nick Reagan has her story.
Valerie Cummings' daughter had been living in Russia for several years, but when the invasion of Ukraine started, she booked a flight and got out of there. Cummings says it was a nightmare trying to get her daughter out because all of her money was in Russian rubles, and sanctions against the country had made all of that money virtually worthless. On top of that, Cummings says it was hard to get information from her daughter as well. All she'd get was short text messages saying everything is fine. But once out of Russian airspace, Emily was able to speak more freely, telling her mother she wasn't sure if her phone was being monitored by the Russian government. Cummings says her daughter is still concerned about the friends she left behind.
She's able to leave, but so many can't, and they don't want this. And, and she said, and they're really just hurting them. Their money is worth nothing now. She's like, the Russian ruble is worthless. She's like, I might have some left and it might be worth a few cents.
Now, Emily was able to get out to France a day after she left. Air France announced that they would no longer be flying in or out of Russia. Reporting in Charleston, Nick Reagan, Live 5 News.
And it sounds like she got out just in the nick of time. Glad to see that she was able to do that. We are going to take a little bit of a break, but coming up on Carolina News Now, pandemic burnout, it is real. It has hit most of us, especially healthcare workers on the front line. But one group of healthcare workers says their exhaustion could affect you. We're going to be talking to you about how pharmacists are responding to these conditions. Plus, you do not want to miss this. Celebrating St. Patrick's Day, how Irish pubs are getting back into the holiday after 2 years of COVID-19 shut down their parties. You are watching Carolina News Now. We'll be back in 45 seconds. Welcome back to Carolina News Now. I'm Maddie Gardner. If you are just joining us, we are catching you up on the top stories from both North and South Carolina. This show is powered by 6 television stations in both states to really give you an idea of what you may have missed this week and also show you something that you may not know about. So we are talking about pandemic burnout. Everyone has experienced this, from moms to teachers to healthcare workers especially. It was on another level for those who were on the front line, of course. Throughout the pandemic, we hear about the long hours that nurses and doctors had to work, especially if they were in hospitals, but it's also the people behind the counters of your local pharmacies who are struggling. So Caroline Hicks has been speaking to pharmacists who are either cutting back on their hours or quitting their retail pharmacy jobs, and she has that story for us now.
So I've been working in pharmacies since I graduated in 2012.
A stint at Walgreens and then several years in the pharmacy at Walmart.
It's tough. It's mentally, it's a toll.
He is a pharmacist because he loves helping people. But he says helping people has gotten a whole lot harder.
You wish you could do more, and you aren't given the tools.
On your worst day, how many prescriptions did you have to fill?
We had some where we would break 400 prescriptions, and I'd work by myself. I'd of course have a couple of technicians, but it was nonstop. Somebody has to be taking the prescriptions in, somebody has to be selling the prescriptions, and then the phone is constantly ringing.
He says throughout his career, he has felt pressure to not take breaks.
They told us we could take a 30-minute lunch, But to do that, we had to shut down, and almost daily we would get complaints because we had lines of people waiting on us.
So it sounds like you didn't think it could get any harder, but then the pandemic happened.
Pretty much, yeah. We were already there. We had the COVID shots. We started doing curbside delivery. We started doing mail-out delivery. All these things were just extra, and they just got added on without any additional help.
Are you worried about the safety of it?
Absolutely. I think that's probably the top one thing, is just that you know, we worry that we're going to make a mistake. We're having to multitask so much now, it's hard to know. And, you know, a lot of times you leave at work and you go home and you're just like, gosh, I really hope I didn't make an error. You know, I hope everything was okay.
According to the findings from the 2021 Pharmacy Workplace Survey, 88% of people working in pharmacies said inadequate staffing is likely to contribute to medication errors or near misses. Years under the pressure of those high stakes are why this pharmacist made a change within the last year, dropping to part-time at Walmart while getting a full-time gig at a Charlotte area hospital.
Insurance is not covering, you know that, right?
And he's not the only one to step away from chain pharmacies. After 25 years of sales and management experience between CVS and Rite Aid, Greg Deese left to open his own independent pharmacy. Now he's on to his second, Oakhurst Pharmacy in East Charlotte.
Through your experience in some of these bigger chains, are you surprised to hear that people working for some of these companies are sounding the alarm, saying that it is not safe?
No, it doesn't surprise me at all, because, I mean, if you think about it, pharmacists are healthcare professionals, and our number one goal is to, again, fill prescriptions for patients in a timely manner, but accuracy, and you constantly battle that accuracy versus quickness.
Deese says it helps having complete control over how the business operates.
I just say I'm going to hire somebody, or we're going to do something different, or we're going to open longer hours. And I think really proper staffing in a year of my career again was not only how many people, but the quality of the people, the training of the people, and the support of the people.
That sufficient staffing and support are what this pharmacist says is critical, and it's what he believes is missing from the chains.
What will customers start noticing if there are not changes made?
I think longer wait times, unfortunately, and there are also maybe more errors made as people are kind of pushed to their limit with multitasking and that kind of thing. Hopefully not, but it could cause patient harm.
Goodness, it is something you really don't think about, but Caroline, thank you for shedding light on those healthcare workers as well. We certainly hope that they get the rest that they need. We now have a horrible story out of Greenville, North Carolina. A family is grieving the loss of a 13-year-old boy. Police say that he died after a driver killed him in a hit and run. So Maddie Kurtz, she spoke to the family, and they shared what they will remember the most about Jaquil Jackson. It is a story that we will play for you now.
Red balloons, a message to the heavens that Jaquil Jackson, or Junior's family, is thinking of him. And while they find comfort in remembering his personality,
I've been just looking down the sidewalk, waiting for him to come up the sidewalk on a scooter. And just be like, psych, or something, like he's goofy, like, you know.
Heartbreak sets in when they realize all of the things the 13-year-old will never get to do.
He's never going to be a husband. He's never going to be a father. Like, all his dreams and goals are just taken from him. And it's not right.
Jackson was killed in the early hours of his first day of spring break in an apparent hit and run about 2 miles from his home. He was last seen by his family around 10 o'clock the previous night.
Whenever he felt some type of way, he used to leave. He's a teenager.
But he never left and went a long ways. He never done that.
They say they later found out he was going to meet up with a friend that lives around McGregor Downs Road, which is where Greenville police pronounced him dead. One day after the tragedy, the family held a balloon release and lit candles.
Part of me didn't want to take people there, but then the other part of me feel like they need to see that spot.
Hoping to spark action for safer streets.
So they'll know, like, this is where a child was left for dead in this ditch. Like, people need to feel what we feel.
So that Junior's siblings and his neighborhood friends can stay safe.
But I feel like we got to do better as a community.
Again, that was Maddie Kurth reporting from Greenville. Our thoughts are definitely with that family. We want to switch gears here and get you another look at the weekend forecast ahead for both North and South Carolina. And for that, we turn to meteorologist Rachel Coulter.
WBTV meteorologist Rachel Coulter. Let's get another check on that forecast across the Carolinas heading into the weekend. Let's look at the mountains first. So if you're going to be heading out the door this weekend in Boone or Asheville, your temperatures on Friday will top out in the 60s, and that'll be the case on Saturday as well. We're going to have a cold front move through, so you can see temperatures heading into Sunday will be in those low to mid 50s, but all in all, really nice weekend, especially as we approach the start of spring. Now heading out really for any of those plans from Raleigh to Charlotte down towards Columbia, much warmer this way. Temperatures likely to top out in the mid 70s in Charlotte on Friday, upper 70s by Saturday, but then cooler as we head into Sunday. Not by much though. It's certainly not going to be as cold and blustery as what we had just 1 week ago approaching the weekend. Raleigh could even see those high temperatures reach the low 80s, and that'll be the case out towards Columbia as well. Let's focus out on the east coastline from Cape Hatteras all the way down to Wilmington, Charleston. Those temperatures will be roughly in those 60s and 70s, just depending on the day and where exactly you are. So Sunday, just out towards the Outer Banks, you'll be in the 60s and upper 60s for the Wilmington area on Sunday, lower 70s out towards Charleston. But remember, we could see some showers and even a few thunderstorms, especially in the evening hours of our Friday, working from west to east, and some lingering shower activity will be possible to start off your Saturday morning. I can't rule out some of those storms firing back up as we head into the evening hours of your Saturday.
Rachel, thank you so much. Perhaps those weekend plans include celebrating St. Patrick's Day. I certainly have my green on today. The St. Patrick's Day weekend, though, continues with many people celebrating this weekend, and actually a lot of people celebrating last weekend as well. But on this St. Patrick's Day, I have to tell you, no one is ready to celebrate more than the owners of Irish pubs. If you think about it, it was 2 years ago around this time that things started to shut down because of COVID-19 and the pandemic. We know small businesses are still feeling the pain of that, but now for the first time in a long time, neighborhood pubs are starting to feel regular again. So this St. Patty's Day, Rira in Uptown Charlotte, an Irish pub, they're celebrating, and they really are counting on you and others to join in. Take a listen.
Well, for us, the anticipation has been pretty great. For the whole team, us at Rira, unfortunately, throughout COVID, we were closed for 13 months. So we got our grand reopening in July, built up our team, and all year we've been pretty much looking forward to this day.
And the National Restaurant Association estimates 90,000 establishments have closed permanently or long-term because of the pandemic. So we are certainly glad to see that those Irish pubs are able to open their doors this year and maybe serve a pint or two to people who want to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And the country really celebrating St. Patrick's Day after 2 years of a hiatus. So I'm sure the party will be going throughout the weekend as well. We are so glad that you joined us on Carolina News Now. Once again, this show covers the stories from both North and South Carolina. 6 television stations make this possible, and we are so happy to have you this week. I will see you again next week. I'm Maddie Gardner. Have an awesome weekend.